Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Cory Fontana, Lipsett, head coach Tony Ersland, and fellas, we've been teasing this moment. We've been teasing this show for like months. We're finally here. Tony,
we're there.
Pretty soon, you guys are going to get to wrestle. Congrats on making it this far. And just what were the emotions like for you the past handful of days?
Yeah, it's just excitement. I mean, you know, what it's taken just to get to this point. I mean, some people may have an idea from watching football. You know, if you follow football, you know, mainstream media, you probably get a kind of a hint of all of the testing and the medical things involved and the stop and the start to training, right? The pause. And it's taken a lot, and we are on the verge. By no means are we in the clear, right? But we have a schedule, and we are preparing to wrestle dual meets, and that is a wonderful thing to do something that is, you know, semi-normal in your life again.
How was the reaction in the room, Tony, when you talk about, you know, the guys finally, you know, they've been preparing for something, not knowing what it was for, you know, since last March. How has their reaction been with the dates and the opponents and so on and so forth?
I think it just solidified things in their mind, right? Like, you know, you can talk about it a lot, but until you see the schedule and know that it's real, you know, there's that little doubt, you know, that's always in the back of your mind where, are we going to really get to do this, right? After everything you've seen for 8 months or whatever it's been of the pandemic, you know, there's always that sliver of doubt where I think some guys were like, yeah, they're talking like we're going to wrestle, but are we really? You know what I mean? That kind of a wink and a nod kind of a thing. And so to have that schedule, and now it's a real thing, you know, on paper, you know, I think it just solidified things. And then there's that level of excitement. Yeah, I really like our group. They've been troopers through this whole thing. But hey, you know, there's that noticeable excitement of, yeah, we're going to get to compete against somebody else. And that was great to see.
You know, let's dig into the schedule a little bit here. We have officially 7 dates, 8 if you can see, you know, 8 if you loop in Big Ten championships and NCAA championships, 9, I suppose. Yep. But we'll kick things off next Friday, hosting Northwestern here at Holloway Gymnasium. I know you've talked to Coach Storniolo a little bit. You know, you excited to really do this and you know, especially getting to do our first one at home.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. You know, there's no doubt. You know, the thing that's interesting, and I think we may dive into this maybe a little deeper later on too, but you know, you just don't know what you're going to show up with from a lineup perspective right now too, because we have daily testing. And we've had a few guys have positives, and we've had guys that are trying to get back. And I know Northwestern and every Big Ten school is dealing with similar things. And so, you know, the interesting thing is I think people are going to see a lot of different lineups. So while we could sit here and talk matchups sometimes, right, about, hey, this duel's coming and these guys are really highly ranked and we're expecting this to happen. You know, right now, I don't even really want to go there. And I'm sure every coach is like, who knows how we're really going to show up. But the great thing and the way we're approaching it is we're going to have everybody ready. You know, there's no redshirt years, there's clock extensions. My plan is to weigh in almost the entire team and have the entire team ready to make weight, because you never know until the day of when you clear that COVID test that you have the green light. So you've got to have everybody ready to go. And I would just tell fans, be ready to see a lot of different lineups. You know, the goal is to, you know, get everybody out there and compete. And then, you know, ultimately get your best kids in March to nationals, right? Like, and that's kind of everything we train for is Big Tens and the national championship. So I think you're going to see a lot of different lineup combinations, you know, especially from us, you know, because we're going to weigh in a lot of different people and use a lot of different, you know, looks. So I would imagine it's going to be something similar for most teams.
It's been interesting on my end, and Cory, you know, has dealt with this a little bit too. You know, being at home first has its perks, obviously, no travel, none of that, no buses, no hotels, no flights, anything like that. But figuring out the logistics of a home duel under the COVID circumstances has been an interesting challenge. You know, there's a lot of conversation in regards to how many mats we're going to use, how are we going to clean, where the camera location is going to be, where are the, the DV Sport, the replay, the fans. I can't tell you how many times we've been asked on social media about fans. We're still working that bug out, right, and how that's going to work. So it is like I said, it's definitely a double-edged sword here. Like we're excited to be home first, but at the same time, man, it is a dog that comes with all kinds of fleas.
Yep. And that's where the appreciation, though, just for what everybody is going through to get us to this point, right? I mean, that's never has it been more true when you just say, hey, we get a wrestle, and you feel good about it, right? Because that's part of the thing this year, is just getting to the mat and getting to compete because of the amount of work and effort that's been put in by everybody. I mean, think about you with travel, and Cory, who's going to deal with the live streaming and facilities with cleaning the mats, and teams coming in the night before with testing. And there's just so much to think about, but it's great. People have really sacrificed and put a lot of time and effort to give these young men and women the opportunity to showcase their abilities. And that's the big win here before we even start.
Absolutely. So we turn right around. We'll go on the road the following weekend. It'll be a double dual weekend. We'll head over to Illinois on a Friday, and then up to Madison, Wisconsin to see the Badgers on Sunday. And it's been a while since, we just went to Illinois last year. So it'll be a repeat trip there, but it's been a while since we've been up to Madison.
Yeah, it has been, just the way the rotation goes. You know what I mean? It's like, as you said, it's been a while, and now the schedule flipped on us, right? I mean, normally that doesn't happen, but
sure.
Obviously with Big Ten competition only, they're going to send us up there. So it's great. I mean, I'm not going to complain about any travel. You know what I mean? I've waited a long time to travel. So we're happy to go to Illinois on Friday night, make our way on Saturday up to Wisconsin, and duel those guys on Sunday. The one thing I will mention too, so fans are kind of aware, obviously the duels are important. That's what we really want to preserve. I really believe in the dual aspect of the sport and in what it does for the fans. So the duels are important. Don't get me wrong. But the other way we're going to try to get kids matches as well is we're going to have some extra matches. So if people see, after the dual box score, there's extra matches being wrestled, that's done to give other people the opportunity to compete, as well as maybe get your match count up. We've talked, I think, a show or two ago about having 4 matches is kind of the magic number when you're talking about qualifying criteria for nationals. So I would tell people to keep an eye out. We're going to wrestle those duels, and those will be fun. But then there'll also be some extra matches, that people can kind of keep an eye on. Won't count towards team scores, but it will play a part when you talk about giving kids the opportunity to compete and be ready for nationals.
And to piggyback off that a little bit before you jump in there, Cory, these are not exhibition matches. Typically if those were ever done in the past, they'd be exhibitions. They would not count towards a wrestler's, career stats or their win-loss record. Whereas this year, these matches count. They will go on their NCAA record forms. They will matter when it's all said and done here at the end of the season.
And all that'll be worked out by the head coach's day of, Tony, you anticipate, or in conversations before?
Yeah. And we just had a Big Ten conference call the other day. The way we envision this, I'm going to say it again, it's fluid.
For sure.
Going in that week.
The official word of COVID.
Yes. Right. We would kind of look at who we're going to travel with, you know what I mean? And who needs matches, and then let the opposing coach know, so that as the home, coach, they could have some other athletes ready to go too. So like I said, I want people to be aware of that. I love the fact that we're wrestling duels. You see a lot of other formats out there, right? I think you saw there's some different formats going on right now. We think the dual meet is absolutely important, and that we want to wrestle them if at all possible. We don't want to have postponements if there's any way possible not to. And I realize it could happen. I mean, we've seen football games and basketball games postponed or canceled. So that's a real possibility. But I just, want people to know that as Big Ten coaches, we were going to make every effort to get a lineup to the mat so we can have a duel. It may not be everybody's number ones, right, in this year, but but I like the fact that, hey, we're going to wrestle dual meets, you know what I mean, this year, so that the crowds and the people can see their teams. And then we'll wrestle these extra matches as a way to, get mat time for other kids or even guys who need it that may have been out, from COVID or other injuries.
I love that resolve from the coaches, sort of a kind of a put your head down and keep moving forward as an overall mentality. I would expect nothing different from this group of guys for sure.
Not from wrestlers.
Interesting. I'm wondering, it's probably a non-issue. It probably doesn't matter, but I know in the past, sometimes in an early season invitation, you can see, Purdue versus Purdue match up on a bracket. Would that be a possibility for an extra match if we've got a couple extra guys at a weight class and want to get them both a match?
Now that's an interesting proposition. In the past, you were able to do that, but we had a situation with a tournament last year that was run by a school where they filled the bracket with their own guys and literally wrestled 3 or 4 matches against their own teammates. And I know that wasn't looked upon favorably. Okay. Right. And so while I don't think the Big Ten has specifically addressed that, I know the NCAA has looked at that in a different way. And so I'm looking for a little bit of clarity or clarification there before we move forward. That is something that I think is key for us to understand, because, while in the past it may not have been allowed, you would hate to see a kid who maybe has 3 matches. And if you get them the 4th by wrestling a teammate, this would be the year where I could see them, maybe being a little more lenient. But I also know that they didn't look upon that favorably, as a means of upping your RPI or your win percentage.
Yep.
Right. It's a situation. Hopefully it's a bridge that nobody has to cross, and it's something we don't run into. But obviously it's a situation that's hanging out there that we may have to.
Yep, absolutely.
So continuing on the schedule, we will continue on the road after that weekend swing to Champaign and Madison. We will head east to Rutgers for the 3rd time in the last year. Back to the rack, where we will get the Scarlet Knights, and Minnesota will join us out there for a tri-duel. We had some crazy times in the rack last year. I anticipate that this year will bring nothing less. So hopefully we can avoid the injuries that we had there. Those were the downer sides of the rack, but obviously that 5th place finish at Big Tens and 8 national qualifiers, that was a good time. So it'll be interesting to see what a trip to Piscataway brings to us again.
Yeah, fond memories, as you said. Tremendous duel, right? Came down to the very end, which we were able to secure with a big overtime victory, and then Big Tens. That was the last time, right? That was it. That was our last memory of us doing everything as a team live, was out at Big Tens and finished top 5. Was that since 1992. And so there was a little bit of history there in that way. So there's some good feelings there, that was created by this team. And, you look forward to that continue, right? You want the momentum that you had to continue. And that's all, from an expectation and a mentality standpoint, what I'm really looking for. These guys advancing the program again, continuing to move levels.
It's been interesting talking to the guys about the schedule and stuff. And they, we talked about going back out there. And, the one uncertainty, we mentioned this earlier, but, we have no idea what the fan situation is going to be like. And it's going to be different everywhere because every state's going to have different protocols and regulations and laws and whatever else you want to, throw into the pot in regards to home duels. And so, they talked about what a great environment the rack is and how fun it was to wrestle there in front of a hostile crowd. But, we'll call it unlikely that we will get to see a similar hostile crowd when we go back to Jersey. So it'll be a very different environment there.
Yeah, and you love environments like that, right? No matter where it is in the Big Ten, you love, a loud crowd, people, getting into the matches. I don't care if they're rooting for us or against us, but you love that atmosphere. You love people yelling and screaming and hollering. They're into it. It's just fun to play, to compete in those environments. So, I'm sure that will probably, people have commented all fall, but it's a little different, right? Playing in front of, a small crowd or no crowd. And I'm sure it will be no different for us, but nonetheless, competing will, I'm sure, make up for it.
Absolutely. Back home after the trip to Jersey. We're going to have a heck of a weekend in Holloway. We're going to welcome in top-ranked Iowa, your alma mater, as well as the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to come over from Columbus, and we'll have a little tri-duel over in Holloway to get back at home again.
Yeah, no, it should be great. I kind of like, if we're talking about the overall look of the schedule too, I like how it kind of came out in terms of one match on the first weekend, right? You get one match, get it in, get it out, see how you look, you train. Then you string back a Friday, Sunday, which is a more traditional deal, but still one match a night, travel, another match, but 2 matches on the weekend. And then right. And so that gets you then into, some of these tries, right, that are going to be tough with good teams. I mean, as a Big Ten schedule only, they're all going to be tough. But I like the progression there for us. We didn't jump in with a quad or a try in the first weekend, which could be tough. First time down to wait, and you just, you're waiting to see how things look. So I kind of like the progression of the schedule, I guess, as we move into, especially that kind of weekend where you have 2 very good teams like Ohio State and Iowa.
Absolutely. As you said, we'll taper off at the end. We have 2 single duels to finish up the season. February 12th, we'll go up to East Lansing, take on the Spartans. We go there every year for the Michigan State Open, but we haven't been up there for a duel in a while. Then we'll finish things up at home on February 21st with arch rival Indiana. That'll be a fun one to have at our place in state. With the last opportunity to wrestle before Big Tens.
Yeah, no, like I said, I really enjoy the flow of the schedule. A lot of great tests. You get a chance to work in, with match counts before you get really busy with 2 tries. And then you get to taper again in terms of just volume of matches there, because, let's just face it, this fall and even early on this winter, it's been start, stop. We've trained a little bit, but then we've had to pause, right? As COVID rates go up or, county regulations or whatever affects. So it's been a very disjointed period to train in, as it's not been just regular. So you kind of want to make sure you get some consistency, and it looks like we'll have an ability to train, as we taper on the back end with only 1 duel. And then we've got, almost a week and a half basically till Indiana again. And then you catch those 2 weeks going into the Big Ten championship. So really having the opportunity to train, I mean, truly train, get a good training cycle in to make some jumps and peak for Big Tens is still there, which I was a little worried about, quite frankly, because the schedule was out of our hand and it was compressed. So like I said, no matter what schedule they gave us, we're happy. But I do think, it shook out kind of nice where we can train and push and peak getting into Big Tens as long as we got everybody with us.
Was there any discussion? I know you're on the phone with AJ Eads a lot, and friend of the podcast, of course. Was there any discussion along the way of keeping some open space? Like you said, there's almost a week and a half between the MSU duel and the IU duel. There's another almost 2 weeks before Big Tens. Keeping some flexibility for the possibility of reschedules.
Yeah. If you look, I know we talked about us starting on the 15th. Yep. There will be a handful of teams that go this weekend, actually anywhere competing, the 8th through the 10th. So you're going to have a handful of teams. Obviously, we're not one of those teams. So that was where your flexibility initially was. Okay, not that we couldn't, if we're going against a Michigan State on a Friday night, maybe if something happens with an event, we could push to that Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there is the possibility that we will still move some things around, and you've got to keep that flexibility. But I think with us starting on that second weekend, you have less flexibility.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know they wanted it there, but let's just face it. We've got 6 events or 6 dates, and you got 7 weekends. Yeah. So you only had the one free weekend out there.
Okay.
That won't stop us from if anything does happen, knock on wood, it doesn't. But we'll do our damnedest to be flexible and get creative and try and mix some things up to make some things happen. So sure. Don't put anything past those wrestlers.
No, like I said, on the meeting the other day, I think we all realize you could end up with, a depleted team at some point, but the commitment to, hey, we're going to compete. We're going to go and we're going to wrestle is there. And that's a big thing, fellas. I'm just telling you, it may hurt. We may put ourselves, if you're out there and, who knows who's got to be ready. That's why we're going to have everybody be ready down to weight and have an opportunity to wrestle. You just have to approach it that way, because if on the day of the match, you've got a positive, right? It's next man up. And if your positive was the number 2 because number 1's out, it better be the number 3.
Right.
Just be, all I've tried to tell our team is be ready. And we're weighing guys in daily based on their percentages, based on, percentage of their weight class. So they're not making scratch weight daily, but we're really keeping guys, close enough to be in range and to be ready to go. So, and they've done a good job. Like I said, they've been troopers. I think they've done a really good job so far. And we'll do our best to do a good job.
Absolutely. We've alluded to this and we've kind of talked about it a little bit already, but, I'd like to stay on that channel for a second. Has there ever been a more, I don't know if difficult is the right word, but has there ever been a harder year to prepare for?
No. I mean, right. I mean,
next question.
Yeah. Every year has its challenges. No doubt. Right. I mean, every year is challenging. I would not, there's never a year that you just say it's easy. It's just not. I mean, we're in Big Ten wrestling, not only just Big Ten sports, which is that competitive, then you think it's wrestling too, which is, at the highest level in this country. So every year is challenging, but man, what we believe and what most wrestlers believe, what we're known for, we love to train. We love to get in there, and that training has been interrupted, in some states vastly more than others. Here we've been fairly fortunate, and we've had some pauses and we've had some disjointed things, but we've been going, fairly regularly. But I know some states get shut down even more. And, there's going to be, as we talked about, there's going to be positive cases. And it's not just, hey, you've got COVID. Now, hey, you're going to have to do 10 days of isolation. You're going to have to get your EKGs, your blood work, all of those things that have to be met and satisfied. And then once you get medically cleared, you got to do another 7 days of working, ramping up, building, back up. So, we are all going to have to manage ourselves. And that's something I talked to the team extensively about yesterday, because we've got some guys who are getting back and they really want to compete, but hey, here's these hoops you still have to jump through. And all they know is they're young men and they want to compete. Right. This is what I do. And so managing them and managing themselves is a really big thing right now, not getting ahead of yourself and understanding that I got to be patient and still work through the process, but still be focused, right? Like do everything I can still do to be ready, whatever that is. And so when you say it's just the most challenging, it is a huge challenge. But like I said, it's one our team has accepted. And honestly, I look forward to going through it, because I'm a huge believer, and I think I've always said this, you're better for these experiences. Certainly, we're going to push, we're not going to wish, I don't wish ill on anybody from COVID, right? Like that's not what we're talking about. But having to manage yourself with some uncertainty of competing and start and stop in your training and not being able to just go when you think you're ready because a doctor or somebody saying, wait, those are things that should make you better when you come out of it, because I've been through it. I've handled these situations. And so no matter what happens, we'll come out the other side better prepared to take us where we want to go ultimately, for our goals. So, it's not fun, but I think we'll be better. Experience is always the best teacher.
Tell you
Cory,
what,
did you have something there?
I did. This feels like a sport management graduate school mock scenario that like some diabolical professor throws at you and then just keeps making it worse. Okay, now you gotta do this, now you gotta do this. Okay, but like you said, this is real life. There's no doubt that all of us, most importantly, the student athletes, you don't know what the lessons are you're learning when you're in the fire, but 10 years later, they're gonna look back at this and say, "Holy cow, I learned so much about myself, about dealing with adversity, about overcoming." This is going to immeasurably change their lives. And you're right. It's not something any of us want to go through, but this is the hand we're dealt. This is the place that we've been put. And so you better make the best of it. Right.
You're making us sound really old right now, Cory. These young kids, when they get older, they'll understand. They'll appreciate this someday.
It's true.
My hope is next year they appreciate the heck out of this, right? I hope by next year they're like, oh, this is great. You mean we can just go sit down at training table together and talk? This is awesome. We can just hang out in the locker room? What? I can stay here and just talk? This is cool. Right. And I'll to your earlier point, I'll tell you this, I took, master's, I have my master's in athletic administration and I had to do a thesis and all those things. And I'll tell you, if any one of my professors had thrown this scenario at me, hey, now think about this and this, and I'd be like, yeah, now come back to reality. Let's deal in reality here, bud. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't even entertain it. So, I guess they were right.
Yep.
Yeah, diabolical. This is next level challenge, problem solving thinking.
Right.
We're constantly jumping through those hoops. But no, you brought up a good point as far as hopefully in a year from now, these kids are looking back at this and I know that you preach often to the guys. You talk about an idea of being appreciative for the opportunity. And being appreciative of where you are, and the phrase, we get to wrestle today. We're the lucky ones. We get to wrestle today, and man, that rings true right now. I tell you what. And when next Friday night gets here, and we're able to go out and take the mat on in Holloway against a real opponent, I think it's going to be an extra special feeling for a lot of these guys who when they tie their shoes that night, when they pull those straps over their shoulders, that it's going to be a pretty special feeling.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be long overdue, and we look forward to it 100%.
Let's talk about some of those guys, right?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Got a lot of preseason, and it is what it is. Preseason rankings are nice to get.
We all know how much Tony loves rankings. They're his favorite thing.
Yeah. Other people's opinions. It's great.
Now, here's the thing. With a lot of these guys, they're very informed opinions, right? Like you don't know how it's all going to shake out, but going in what Devin Schroeder is. And
sure.
In a lot of folks' minds, he's a top 5, as high as number 3 in the country preseason. And I don't think any would say that's not well earned. He's not the only one in the top 5. Kendall Coleman also getting a top 5 preseason ranking. 7 wrestlers in the top 25. They are what they are, but you'd rather have them than not, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And listen, when I say other people's opinions, that's not to be dismissive of those people doing the rankings. I still love them. I know a lot of them personally. That's not, they work hard and they do their dead level best. But as a coach, right, I just say that other people's opinions, because honestly, the people's opinions who matter is that young man who's walking out, putting his foot on the line, as well as his team and the coaches who are behind him, right? Those are the people's opinions who really matter. And so that's where it's kind of tongue in cheek.
Yeah, and I think they all get that.
Yes, I'm sure they do. But no, it's, in this day and age where there's, so much information out there, it's an indicator of good work that has been done, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what it is. It's an indicator of, hey, you have done a nice job in the past, but it's a new year, and I've always talked about that. They're even if it's the exact same team in terms of guys, they're a year older, they've done better or worse, or expectations, whatever. So it's a new year, and you gotta go out and do it again. And we've always said that the mark of of a champion, if you will, is consistency. So to be able to repeat things like this is what's important. So that's what we're looking for. You're looking for a guy like Devin to get out there and get back after people and establish himself as a dominant guy at the weight. Kendall Coleman and those guys. And, I will say we had him up the other day in front of the team. Since we're getting to compete now, we're having a couple guys here and there stand up and talk about their goals. And we've got a chance to ask them questions, right? Both long-term, mid-range goals. If this happens, how are you going to handle that? What's your day-to-day? What do you got to do to be successful? And I liked what I heard from them. You know what I mean? They have huge goals and they have that quiet confidence about them. They're not guys that are going to beat their chest, but I like, how they're thinking and they believe what they're saying. And that's huge. It's one thing to say it, anybody can say something, but you got to see the belief in a man's eyes and if they think it's really achievable. And so it was good. It was fun to watch them talk to their teammates about their goals and where they're at and how they're going to get there. And we'll keep working through that with the rest of these guys as we go. But yeah, it was fun to hear them talk about their goals and what they need to do.
Exciting to see, specifically about Devin. And again, we've kind of qualified what rankings are, especially the preseason ones. They haven't seen these guys on the mat in a long time, but I haven't completed the homework yet. But Devin's our highest preseason ranked individual in a very, very long time. The last guy who was in the top 5 for us was Cash Karoga back in 2011, I believe. And so it's pretty cool. We talk about last year and we talk about the rarefied air that we climbed into, and, we did some historic things and we achieved some things at a very high level. And now you're seeing the carryover to that. You're seeing okay, you did that last year. Okay, what's next?
Right.
And we're already starting to make more accomplishments, make more history, do more things that haven't been done here in a very long time. And that's very exciting for the program.
Yeah, no doubt. We haven't reached our biggest goals. I will say there's progress, there's signs, that have us excited, have the team excited. It's, created belief in what they're doing, right? You want to see, or, any guy, you want to see progress. It feeds kind of what you're doing. I'll use in terms of something that's very tangible. If you're lifting weights and the weight on the bar continues to go up, okay, I'm getting excited. I want to keep pushing more and more weight. Same thing, as you win and you move up that podium, it kind of feeds that fire. And then that's really what I see, especially out of our really good kids. And then it's just trying to make sure the underclassmen, the very young guys, understand how to keep stoking that fire as well. So it's fun to see, and I like where we're at, but we haven't got what we want. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that, we still are very hungry.
Absolutely. Well, as Cory said, 7 preseason guys ranked. Other guys of note, just to throw a list together here. Griffin Perry at 149, getting some love, anywhere from the top 10 to the top 15 to the top 20. He's a little all over the place that way. Parker Phileas in the top 20 at 141. Emil Sundlin getting some love at 65 and 74. Max Lyon getting quite a bit of love at 184, and Thomas Panola is getting a little bit, he's coming back down from heavyweight to 197, and he's getting a little bit of love with those 197 pounders to fill out that list of 7 guys getting preseason rankings across the board.
Yeah, it's good group. And if you watched, from October when we went out to university in U20s, specifically you had Parker, Max, and Panola all had, pretty strong showings there, beating a number of highly ranked kids as well. So, when you have that nucleus, you have a guy like, or guys like Kendall and Devin, you got that next group of guys that are looking really good. Max making the finals. Thomas beat a couple of highly ranked guys, beat top 4, and Parker, being, what was he, 5th, I believe. That's good. That's a next wave of guys coming, to add to those 2. And then you have, somebody like Emil, who you're saying is getting some love. He had his season, jerked away from him last year. He was really, going to have a strong year. He had already shown that in some of his brief, few events before he got hurt at Cliff Keen, where he mmade the quarters, when it was in the round of place and stuff. So before he got hurt. So, you got a guy like Emil right there. So yeah, it's a good group. Some guys who are really showing that they're coming hard. Some guys who have maybe a bit more experience or been in a little higher on those matches. And then some young guys who really, I think, are anxious to prove themselves as well.
Yep. There's a lot of guys I'm excited to see wrestle. I'm really excited to see Thomas at 197. He looked like a beast out at universities. And I think he's going to turn some heads early. And then Emil's another one. You brought up Emil. I mean, he's looked pretty good in the room. I'm really excited to see him get his hands on some other people and see how much he has changed since last year. Cause I've seen a bunch of new moves in the room that I didn't see him do before that I think are going to open some eyes pretty quickly on the season. Yeah,
no, he's a very disciplined kid. He really is, and all I want from him is you mentioned you're seeing some different things from him, and that's what we want. He's got some very strong attacks, he can turn. I mean, he's got some very good, skill sets. We want to see him continue to open up, showcase your skills. Don't leave anything in the toolbox here. Let's get out and let's showcase them to people. That's the one thing I want to just encourage him to continue to kind of open up and put more points on the board than what he was doing last year, early on as a freshman.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's about all I've got. Cory, I thought you had something else.
Yeah. There's a documentary floating around out there that was put together to honor, the great Dan Gable. And the only thing I've heard anybody talk about from it is this scraggly dude running around in his blue underwear. Hey, Coach, what's it like? What's it like making your big film debut? In all your glory.
Listen, I've had a lot of phone calls on this too. Let's make this about what it should be. Coach Gable, he got the Medal of Freedom. The guy, has done everything. But I did have a few people, same as you, bring up the fact that I was running around in my briefs. I got two things to say. One, that's how we did it back then. That was socially acceptable in the Iowa wrestling room. Okay. Wasn't just me. But two, the real mistake I made, believe it or not, I don't even look at it. The mistake was wearing the blue briefs only. It was standing next to Joe Williams.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
At that part of the film, that was truly the mistake.
Full stop.
Yeah, yes. And people who know Joe know what I mean. That guy, I needed to go stand next to somebody else. I know that, but
go hang out next to the heavyweights or something.
Yeah.
You're not the only one who ever made that mistake. I guarantee.
But no, it was fun to see in this. I enjoyed it in terms of this. It was a nice walk down memory lane. I'd seen bits and pieces of that footage. Obviously being on the team, was a lot of fun and special, as it ended with Coach Gable, retiring after that year. But no, it was a nice walk down memory lane. Except for I did have to answer the question of my kids too. Dad, why aren't you wearing shorts?
Come on, Dad.
Yeah.
There's nothing that, it's funny. You make the thing of that's what we did back then. And having been around wrestling for the last 15 years of my, never wrestling myself, but having been around the sport, I just there's not much that surprises me anymore as far as what what you guys will do and what certain things are deemed acceptable, for lack of a better word.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think that it kind of goes, if you just think about the mentality too, is like, we're going to compete this year, right? Our goal is just however we got to get these dual meets in, that's what we need to do. And that's the singular focus, right? We understand it could be messy. It could be ugly because you just don't know what a lineup's going to be. So you realize there's that possibility. But hey, we're in this. And our goal is to get these duels in and get to March and get to our national championships and make this happen. And it was the same way when you're in the room, hey, we're just going to do this. We're going to wrestle. I'm here to wrestle today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hot. My shorts got 10 pounds of water in them. You know what I mean? The shirts.
Yep.
Yeah. We're here. We're going to do this. So, yeah, we can have another 12 podcasts on stories too about those kinds of things. Cause there's just
we got numerous planned.
Yeah, numerous options there about the look of guys wrestling, like maybe in just their briefs, but neck braces. Just a neck brace because you got a sore neck. So, all you got on are wrestling shoes, briefs, and maybe a neck brace. Maybe you got your headgear on, maybe not. There's a lot of good stuff there that made me laugh and chuckle about when you think about back then.
He definitely had a few other scenes where he called me into his office and was like, "Hey, come look at this. Come check this out." And things you can't do anymore. Obviously, there was one with Coach Gable sending them all into the sauna after a workout, and he just shuts the door, and you're like, he's not opening that thing. They're in there. They're in there for the long haul.
Yeah. That you were in there till they said, "Hey, you're out." You know what I mean? But it all served a purpose, right? Like there was always a reason for it, right? And so even though to some people you look and you be like, man, that's really extreme, but there's a reason and it's necessary, whether it's to create the mindset or get you guys together or it's just
always context. A lot of always
no doubt,
always context. Corey, I think that's that's all we got this week.
We've gone everywhere we wanted to go. In some places that we probably shouldn't have. But we've got a lot to look forward to. We're going to come back at it next week, and we'll dig a little deeper into the Northwestern duel. We'll talk a little bit more about the Purdue roster as it's shaken out and sort of where the guys are with their training. So we'll leave it there for now. Coach, thank you for the time. Tanner, good to see you as always, and everybody else, boiler up.
Thanks, boys.